And it's Dan and James talking about the Villa games. Hi there, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the AVFC Faithful podcast, joined by Dan and James, as always. And this week with special guest, finally, it's Symmo. How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good, buddy. How are you?
We're just over the moon that we've managed to get this all sorted.
Finally.
I mean, I think we first mentioned you coming on back in, I want to say March time, which doesn't look good for how organised me and James are, but we got there in the end.
We're there.
Good. Well, look, we've got a fair whack to touch on, more so than we thought for a summer podcast. I mean, we'll get right into it with the first thing you actually managed to send me earlier, which I would have missed out on. We'll go straight into the summer series squad. I thought that'd be the first thing to touch on, freshen everyone's head. I'd obviously I think most people would have seen it by now, but I guess we'll just touch on pretty much the omissions, which were obviously, James, you're going to have to say his name for me. I only know him as Tim because I can't pronounce it, and you saved me with this.
Well, I think it's Irobunum, but most people say Irobunum, so I still tend to stick to Tim still myself as well, so we'll keep it as that.
So you got Tim, obviously Bertie Traore and Duran missing from the squad, or absent, I guess. Well, we'll kick right into it. What do you guys think about it? Why those three, and what's the idea behind it, I guess?
Well, I'd heard that I think there's rumours that Duran has a knock. He's a bit injured. Then there's rumours that he might be off to a team in Spain on loan. You can never tell what he's talking about really on Instagram and Twitter, so don't try and read into it too much. It's a bit like having Tony's ear back, isn't it? So we'll leave him to that side of things. I think Traore's injured as well. Tim, yeah, I thought he might come to America with us, but there must be something on the horizon really close, I'd imagine. And I saw a few reports recently that QPR are going to push for him again, which wouldn't surprise me, but I wouldn't be massively keen on that because I don't think how Ainsworth plays suits him too much, but we'll see. But yeah, the interesting one for me was Sanson being in the squad, and I mean, I know that he's still our player and we have him till we have him, but it just seems like he's got every year seems close to being gone, and then he's still there, like trying to fight for it. So interesting to see if he's used much, what he does, and what happens come the end of the summer.
I think Sanson's one that I think you'll want to have a look at him. I think you look at Emery's record in the past. He likes making players out of favour good. It's kind of what he's always done at Villarreal in the past. So he might seem as a little challenge, but our midfield's stacked now. We've got a stacked centre midfield where he'll play. So it's a tricky one, I think, with him. I think Tim, I'm just going to call him Tim as well because it's the name I can't say either. I think he'll go out on loan. I think the problem with QPR is with our loans, I think we're going to want to see people progressing and getting better. And I think, it's similar to Archer in a way when people are talking about him going on loan. I think with Tim, I want to see him maybe in a top 6 championship team if he's going out on loan, where he's winning games. We're playing a similar style to Villa. And that side of things. Duran, aside from his kind of 1 a.m. live Instagrams that he does, it just pops up on your phone randomly and you're like, oh God, what's he doing sitting in a car just staring at you? I think he'll go on loan. I read somewhere today that he's in America and he'll join back up with the squad after he'll meet us in America and then he'll come back home with us, which is a bit strange, but because he's been pictured on Instagram coming to the UK. So lots of weird reports, which I don't know what you believe, but yeah, I think a loan for him would be good. It'd allow us it would force us almost to buy another striker then, and I think but it want to have a good look at him in pre-season, I still think. I don't think these players will be leaving early.
No, you wouldn't expect, especially not where it is and how it's being played, you wouldn't expect to see him sort of pop in for 1 hour for football and then leave. That's what as soon as you mentioned Tim, that was the one I thought that's definitely one that's been subsided to probably force a move through in the coming weeks. I think as though is the only thing I think about with Duran is obviously if we are signing the signings that we're being linked with, which we'll touch on again in a bit, because obviously there's been movement even more obviously in the last week. It does open up to me. I mean, you look at the list, the forwards are literally Archer, Bailey and Watkins. All right, Buendia does actually sit up there as well, but that is quite light for a two forward formation that we play. So to me, it does say that if Duran isn't, carrying anything, and if he is being wildly assessed again, it's just his one's confusing for me, but it's been confusing me for the whole time because he's either had 20 minutes or 2 minutes, and it's never felt right, and it does sort of feel like we signed him and then Unai sort of went, oh, actually not as ready as I thought he was. Just gauge the waters with him. And I mean, we've got a competition going for whether he's going to be booked, sent off first, or whether he's going to score a goal first, because
he's definitely going to do a headbutt, isn't he? He's definitely up for the Dublin headbutt. I think that's that's something. I know it's one today as well. Feeney's not in it as well. Like, he started the other game, and Josh Feeney's not in there, and he's got some youngsters in the squad, but maybe there's a low move for him on the cards.
I mean, because he was quite I didn't watch the game, whether thankfully or unthankfully. I know Warsaw's some people, it's very Marmite. That's all I call it, is Marmite, because I mean, having been there, it's a great day out, but the football's not ideal. But I did hear that, for being involved as he was one of those players, along with the other youngsters that played, where they sort of looked on a bit more favourably. It's strange, but maybe he's one they put him out there because they knew that he was going anyway, and just gave him the run
think out. With Feeney, I think he played well in that friendly. I mean, obviously he had that little mistake at the corner, but that was one of those iffy ones where, when it comes to you that quick at the back post as an inexperienced player, he just sort of swung at it, which, in a friendly at his age, I thought it was a good way of seeing what sort of level he's at. And I think, for me, sending him out to a League One, League Two team on loan, because he did quite well against Walsall, and I think, that's sort of a good gauge of where he's at. And I think coming into this summer series, I think we're going to see a lot more of sort of being serious with our squad and looking at how we might be setting up come the start of the season, because we're playing some Premier League teams, so it's a good opportunity to see how we're going to line up. And I think we've got Carlos that's needing to be tested a bit more. Than you got Konsa, Mings and Torres. Mings and Torres being back now, so I don't think Feeney would have got much game time anyway. So the other areas where youngsters are being brought in, I think they're sort of plugging in gaps in the squad anyway. The interesting one for me was Kellyman, because he's one of the youngest there, I think, and he looks a bit versatile. He's down in one of the midfielders, but I think he could also be a bit further forward as well. So I think Unai probably sees something in him, and I'm glad to see Philogene going out to America as well. I thought he had a pretty solid game against Walsall. He was sort of Marmite on Twitter afterwards, because some people were saying, I don't know what he did really that much apart from win the penalty, and some people obviously saying his quality has got to be in the squad for the season, but he's still got a long way of pre-season to keep him pressing. But I think he's one of those players that we need to see more of, considering we haven't got much depth out wide. So I was glad to see him in that squad.
I think he's one of the Philogene as well. We need 4 Villa homegrown players in the squad, and he's someone I think a lot of people have forgotten about. He's kind of, people are talking about Archer, Tim and the Ramses. I think Philogene's probably one of the people that people don't think will qualify for that, who he does, and he could easily be a squad player in that role. We're not going to have world-class people in every single position times 2. We're going to need some youth coming through. And just touching on Feeney, I think he does look a bit lightweight, and I think that's just his age. I think John Terry went to Nottingham Forest when he was young, and it really helped him. He just beefed him up a little bit playing in the lower league. So maybe something like that could be a good thing for him.
It's I think I find it more interesting because of what we see linked outside as well. Is on top of it is when you mentioned the 4 players, obviously that's 4 registered squad players, isn't it? Through so it's obviously not 4 starting, but it's 4 registered players that could play in each game week, for example.
25, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, what you got already, you're thinking probably the goalkeeper. We're probably at this stage, from what you can see at Lincoln, we're not signing a second goalkeeper at the moment. That could change. But my brain automatically goes Archer, both Ramses, and the backup goalkeeper would be the third choice goalkeeper would be registered as a homegrown player. But like you said, James is a massive fan of Philogene. He was a big the Keep Low and Sell video was that was the one maybe stumbling block we had, because he backed his corner very well and sort of turned my ear with it. So I'd love to see him, because again, I'm speaking from someone that's going to be honest, and I have no idea how he plays. I've seen very limited of him.
I think Aaron Ramsey could be one who, potentially goes on loan again. He's had 2 very start loan spells, with Borough and Norwich, and I think he may just wanting to get out and consistently play for a season somewhere, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in the Championship. I think Chelsea have always had a bit of success with teams like Vitesse. Maybe send him to Vitoria. That's a link we could potentially explore and get him some Portuguese first team football.
I did see a link that I honestly don't remember where I read it, but I saw Girona or something in La Liga were looking at him, which I think foreign experience would be really good for some of our youngsters. Quite a lot of young English talent are doing well over there. But yeah, Philogene, looking forward to seeing what he can do. As I said, it was back in February or March or something that we did that keep sell loan.
Yeah.
And I was saying, I think he sort of flies under the radar a bit because he's not a flashy team. He's not got the high numbers, but he was developing his game, his all-round game. And I think you can sort of see that so far from the little that we've seen of him back in Claret and Blue. But yeah, it will be interesting to see which 4. Well, there could be more because obviously you don't have to register some of the young ones. So we'll see who's around the squad for the season. But you've got to think that everything's pointing towards Archer getting his chance. I think we are light in that striker department. I think that we'll sign maybe someone versatile that can play out wide and up top, and then another winger as well. So considering we do play 2 forwards quite often, whether we change that at times, who knows? But yeah, you would think that he's going to get his chance this season, and he fully deserves it.
I think he'll play him in most of the Europe games, to be honest. If the group games in Europe aren't going to be against the best teams, especially now we're seeded as well. If we go through and qualify that way, we're going to be playing. We'll probably have one fairly decent European team in our group, but then the other 2 are going to be, fairly average to poor sides. And I think that they'll be the games where he'll give them a shot and see what we can do.
I think it leads us on pretty well to what I've been thinking about today. It's not exactly bang on to the targets we've been getting, but it's something I have been thinking of, especially when I looked at the list. And with Kane Kessler going out on loan, I'm more and more adamant that Konza is being moved out to right back. I think that's pretty much, I'm not going to say nailed on, but I mean, I can see James smiling because he called it from day one. And not only that it's my favorite thing to do on Football Manager, is put him at right back because I hate signing him and I think it's impossible now. So I think that's the thing I've been looking at is that. Go on, James.
I was going to say that I've sort of changed my tune on it, to be honest. I actually can't see it myself. The concert right back. And it's not, I think defensively, he's perfect for the role. But on the ball, I think he could be doing a bit more. I'm probably overly critical of Concert at times, more on the ball than anything, because, he's really good defensively, putting his body between the ball and the man. Like, he's probably got to be up there with one of our most felt players, really intelligent defender. But I think sometimes he just needs to be a bit braver on the ball. You can see there's a pass into midfield on that. It's a tough pass, but he will go sideways more than anything.
Yeah.
And that could just be the dynamic that Emery's asking for. Mings is better on the ball, so if that's the dynamic, that's how it works. But I think if you have got a weaker player playing the ball out from the back, which obviously is why we've signed Pau Torres, but I think that's the pressing trigger then. Whereas if you've got really good, ball-playing defenders across the back, then it's harder to nail down. So, if Emery can get something out of him at right back in that sort of sense, I'd be interested to see it. But I could still see Konsa being more centre-back than anything and bringing in a right back, to be honest.
I think the obvious comparison is Juan Foyth at Villarreal. I think that's always quite, linked, but he's got a long way to go to get his game to that level now. But whether he now develops his game as a right back under Emery, and we start seeing things that we've potentially not seen from him before. I think at right back you're more inclined to play them more dangerous passes, because if you do them at centre back, you've pretty much got no cover. You clean through. But if you do them at right back, you've probably got your centre backs covering you, so he might have a little bit more confidence playing them balls from there. But I think it's something that he'll explore, because I thought generally Emery doesn't really like his right backs attacking too much. That all goes down the left, and we have a bit more technical side down the right. But yeah, I think it's something I think he'll try, and it's down to Konsa to step up, and that's on him then. And I hope he does, because I really want him in the team. I think he's a great player, but like you say, he's not going to have long to to have that chance. We'll soon be bringing someone in if he can't do it.
It's strange, isn't it? Because we talk so much about seeing Konza at right back. Yeah, obviously we have got Tyrone Mings, who was, a registered left back for pretty much the first half of his career until he molded into a centre half. Obviously, we've never even thought about the option of him going out to left back because, with the left backs we have now, it's not really thought of. But when I think of it, what I do enjoy about it is the idea of having these centre backs that can shift into those positions. I know Callum Chambers isn't everyone's cup of tea, but he is someone that's been able to cover 3 positions for us whenever we've needed it: midfield, right back, and centre half. I do like the idea of having Konza at least molded so that the games where, for example, when Cash goes off injured, or when, sadly not here anymore, but he's still alive, he's just Everton, young. Now that obviously he's departed the Villa realm, when he was able to fill in there, I do like the idea of just being able to move things across rather than, because it does seem like the market has shifted so that we aren't seemingly, it could change, I have to keep saying it because I know, knowing my luck, I say we're not going to sign one and we will. It doesn't look like we are looking in the market for a starting right back, which I think everyone was kind of hoping for, because I know the doubts around Matty Cash. But again, that was my idea. But then I guess the more pressing move and the more important move is happening further up the right hand side, and that's the links to both Diaby and obviously Jeremy Doku. I want to say it's Jeremy now. The Doku bit I was certain of. It was the Jeremy I was worried about. But 2 quite exciting links, I think. Obviously, one's extremely high level, well known, and Doku's more of the niche, but equally as exciting move. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts, because ecstatic if I get either of them, to be honest.
I think with the RB, I'm kind of a win-win here with the Saudi interest as well, because I think if he takes the Saudi move, he kind of shows his personality a bit more, and I don't think we want people like that in the squad.
Yeah.
So I think that's, if he does end up going there, then I'm glad we didn't get him. But if he does come to Villa, and it looks like he wants to come to Villa, it depends on the club accepting the bids now. But that's something he may push for. And I think that's exactly the role. It's like the Brendan Johnson links as well. That kind of player on the right attacking player to play next to Watkins. I don't see Buendia as that player. Buendia on paper should be a really good cover for McGinn at right midfield. He tracks back well. He's got the energy on him, and on paper he should fit that role. I don't know why it doesn't work, but certainly that very attacking Leon Bailey replacement, as call it as it is, I think that's what it is going to be. We need someone exciting there, and we need someone who's going to get people off their seats and kind of get the ball, and people think what's going to happen, and that's the exciting side of that one.
Apart from what's going to happen that we're sort of having at the moment.
Yeah, DRB. I was a fan of him a few weeks ago when we were filming the transfer target video that we were going to release, and we didn't get round to it, and he was an ambitious target on the list for me. I didn't actually think that it'd be someone that we pursued, just because I thought he might be going to one of the top teams. And I also don't think, by the look of it, he's as expensive as I thought he might have been. We'd have to break our record, and he's not cheap. But I also thought that the potential that he's got, I could see him going to a Liverpool for like 70 million or something as an heir to Salah's throne in some sort of sense. But yeah, he's an exciting player. I think you could see that there's probably improvements to be had for his game, but there's also a lot to admire about him, especially his productivity and his pace. That's something that we really lack, and what we've been saying for weeks and weeks, before the end of the season, that we really need to address the pace in the side, especially on that right-hand side, because someone said before that Bailey's like the slowest fast person I've ever seen. And I agree, because he looks like he's quick sometimes, and sometimes he looks like he's got a broken leg. So we do need to add that injection of pace, and Diaby is rapid. So yeah, that'd be really exciting if we can bring him in.
Things with Bailey, like Bailey's really quick, but he doesn't seem to get very far. Like you say, he does like a little quick turn or something, but then he's still in the same position in 5 seconds time.
Yeah.
The problem with me, I always have, and it annoys me a little bit, I kind of take my player valuations from Football Manager sometimes. So I see Diaby going to Liverpool for 78 mil or something on there, and I'm like, right, that's how much he's worth. So when we link him for 50 mil, I'm just like, brilliant, like, it's so cheap.
Yeah, it's sort of the strange part of it where you look at a player like Diaby and you think, well, there's no real correlation to why we would be the ones to go get him. But then I remember feeling that way about Leon Bailey when we got him, and that felt like a massive coup. I'm not being all like panicky about it, but again, it's another player where it feels like we're going the step above where we are used to be going. I mean, Tielemans on a free and Pau Torres has already pretty much solidified that, but still, I think it's always the attackers which sort of, everyone goes, oh, all right, that's where they're going, and that's where they are. And I mean, you do see it online whenever anyone's reporting on it, whenever how am I forgetting Fabrizio? Whenever Fabrizio tweets about it, I mean, we're full of some fans being a bit weird about it, or the newfound love relationship we seem to have with Newcastle fans, which is uneasy. But I'm warming to it. I'll be honest with you. I still don't trust it. I feel like I might get cheated on by him any minute. But that sort of level of signing is great. But again, when you look at the Jeremy Doku signing, it's a cheaper alternative, and one that might mean that you open yourself up to invest in the other areas, which I guess we are still looking in, if not completely openly in the market that we're seeing. But as we know that Villa don't like to do everything out in the open. And I guess Tielemans and sort of Pau Torres solidified that, because they, soft links, but nothing was ever concrete until it was done, really, was it? So it would be interesting, I think.
The good thing about Tielemans as well is I think he's a position we'd look to spend 20-25 mil on someone. So because we've got him on a free, that technically puts that money now into another position. So we probably can go a little bit higher on a position that we thought we may not be able to. Torres technically was what, £27 million when you work it out.
Yeah,
like that's just for that kind of centre back. Again, I think we've saved money there, and we've got this money burning a hole in our pocket. Sorry, for we can now go big on someone else.
Yeah, and this is what annoys me when people say, just give them the money they want. And if you did that, you wouldn't be coming out with Pau Torres for under 30 million. You negotiate for a reason, and we've become pretty good at that recently. And this is why I'm not too worried with the whole DRB saga that's going on right now. It's not a fast thing that happens. It's tough negotiating, and when agent talk comes into play and it's all about leverage, you've just got to just sit back and let it happen. And I trust that we'll either get him for the right money that we view him at, or we'll move on. And it seems like we've got a contingency plan with Doku, and he's another exciting player. And I mean, he's got the concerns around his injury record recently, but he's a young player, and I think if you nurture him properly and you don't overplay him too much, you could probably get around that. But yeah, transfer season gets a bit silly sometimes, and it's best to try and stay away from it.
I think everyone just assumes they're playing FIFA and transfers happen the next day. Like, you throw a bid in and it's rejected instantly, and then you bid straight away again, and then you talk to the player tomorrow. And it's such a complex thing, transfers. And I think patience is sometimes needed, which I guess most football fan bases just don't have.
Yeah.
And Football Manager taught me that, which we aren't sponsored by, for as much as it's going to be mentioned here. But in all seriousness, it did teach me a lot, because I was one of those people who was brought up in the FIFA generation and, thought, oh, okay, they just sit down in a restaurant and chat things over, and next thing you know, they're wearing the shirt. And yeah, apparently not. So the patience has come around full circle. And I think that's come a lot as well from sort of buying into the tactical side of football as well. That sort of helps, because you can sort of let the other side slide a lot more. But yeah, it's always easier when you're doing better, isn't it? Because you're like, oh, well, an addition is an addition, rather than, oh, if we don't improve, we're going down. So that obviously, that's amazing. The only injury that could be happening is the injury to Villa fans' pockets of recent. And that is, well, we'll cover it now because, we were talking before and realised that me and James never actually spoke about the new kit. We lightly touched on the new badge at one stage, and the 2 badge design. But obviously we've had Villa shirt technically increased. I think you're looking at £70 now for the shirt on its own. And then obviously your £10 customization, your £10 for your badge. And you can now get the Europa League Conference badge, and we haven't played a game yet, which is, I think I'm stuck in the old Villa ways, but I know it's kind of likely, but still I don't like it. What else have you got? You've got tickets have obviously gone up. again, and the introduction of call it the posh season tickets. I think you messaged me earlier, Simo, with it. It's the terrace, isn't it? The terrace view, the hospitality ones. They're calling it hospitality anyway. Which will set you back. I believe it's 1,500 quid. If I read online earlier correctly, which also takes you off the waiting list as well for a regular season ticket. And so you're either buying those again or you're back to the queue. So my general question to you guys is, just looking from a fan perspective, not take Unai Emery away from it and take him, but keep the success. When you see those price increases, what's your first thoughts?
I think with, by the way, that was the smoothest segue I think I've ever heard someone do. No, I think in a way, Villa are a victim of their own downfall in the past. I think we created season tickets so cheap in the Championship. Zone 4, Zone 5 back then were like 15, 20 quid or so. And so when we're smashing the prices up as quick as we are, it feels really steep in fans' pockets, and it is quite steep, but it's because we were so cheap. And I think comparable to other teams, we are about level, especially top 7, top 8 sides. However, it's the way it's gone about happening. I think the fan consultation groups just rarely, they're not even consultation groups. They're just, here's some information, guys. It's not really going to change much what you say. And
consider yourself consulted is basically how it goes, I think.
That's exactly it. There's not much consultation. It's just telling you what's happening, and that's it. But I think I think that the posh season ticket it's ridiculous. I think it's, you get 2 free beers. That's a way. But yeah,
each game, or is that just throughout the season?
I just saw someone take 2 free beers, so I assume it must be per game. Surely that's just ridiculous.
How are they going to? How are they going to police that?
But yeah, it's everything's happening at the same time, and I think the cost of living at the minute for a lot of people is tough. Prices of food, prices of alcohol, prices of normal non-alcohol are going up, and it's just, I think everything's happening at once. And I think when you're owned by $1 billion industry, you kind of hope they'd have a bit of understanding towards fans. And it's not just a Villa thing though; it's the whole of the Premier League. It's because people will pay. If Villa whack their tickets to 70 quid, tomorrow, we'd still probably sell out. And that's the problem. It is, there's people who will pay it. So from a Villa perspective, it's supply and demand, but you kind of just want that human level of kind of understand. We don't all earn 40, 50 grand a week and can afford 100 loaves of bread if we really want a day. We're all living paycheck to paycheck, most of us. So you kind of want that understanding there, but it's not there in football in general.
Yeah, I don't have too much more to add to that, to be fair. It's bang on, and I'm sort of, I'd probably be called a bit of a cook on Twitter, but it's one of those, like, I've sort of accepted it now because of it being modern day football, that I can't afford it, I'm not going to get to see it. I think I went 3 or 4 times last season, and it was the only times that I could afford it that season. It's as you say, it's tough living at the moment, and when you think of football being the working class man's game, the roots of it, you just sort of see how distant ago that sort of is now, and that's sort of what we have to realise. And it's really sad because people are getting rinsed through it, but at the same time, as Simo said, people are going to pay it. That they will force out the people that can't pay it, and there's going to be a whole bracket of people that do. And it's a shame. And I mean, we're going to expand the stadium, and I don't think there'll be any problems with filling it. That we are the victims of our own recent success, and I think recently having that season and a half without crowds has sort of played into the owners' hands around the Premier League, and that no one wants to miss out on it because they know what it's like when you're not there. So they know that people are going to pay that slight bit more probably than what they're used to. So yeah, it is frustrating from a fan's point of view, but it's part of trying to get up to that upper echelons of the league now from the owner's point of view, revenue point of view. But yeah, it's just a bit of a sucker punch, really.
I think one of my really good mates is a Chelsea fan, and he he hates going to Stamford Bridge now, because it's just full of people who can afford a ticket, but aren't necessarily big fans. Do you know what I mean? Like, tickets get sold on, their companies buy tickets now and give them to people. And I don't think there's many teams in the top six or have ever been in the top six where the atmosphere is just amazing. Newcastle's probably the only exception last season, but I think with success, you pay that price, and it's always been the case in football. And Villa need to think outside the box a little bit if they want that atmosphere. If they're happy for us just to have a very quiet Villa Park, if a lot of people just going for their first game because they've paid 90 quid a ticket and want to go, and Villa want to have a quiet park, or do they want a loud, hostile ground where teams don't like coming? And I hope the owners would have that ear to the ground to understand that, but it is looking unlikely.
I mean, the way I picture it is basically it was the storm in the distance. You knew it was coming, but you were just hoping the wind might just blow it away a little bit.
Yeah.
I was quite obviously expecting the fact that, I mean, even before COVID, as soon as we came back up, we were selling out season tickets anyway. And our attendances weren't even that poor in the Championship to begin with, especially because of the cheapness of it. It was quite clear, wasn't it, that as soon as we came back up, you'd have the new sort of breed of fans as well that wanted to finally see us back in and sort of enjoying the new wave of the Premier League. Not only that, as soon as COVID happens, like you said, the prices can go up. I mean, let's not forget they tried to charge us 15 quid to watch Burnley Everton. Like, the Premier League set the precedent for the clubs to join in with. And as soon as that happened, and people did pay for it, not a lot, but enough did, that the clubs could easily sit down and go, look, we can operate on about 75% capacity stadium at these prices and make this much of a profit. So even if they don't sell out season tickets, which again they will, even if they don't sell out every week, which again they probably will, if not by about a few hundred, I think it was at most last season, they know that they're going to make their money back and more. So it's so strange because you love the club so much and the ownership is so fantastic, but they do things like this and you're like, well, sort of have to be fair and go, I personally can never really agree with it. I think that there should be a cap. I've always thought that there should be a limit to where I mean, you own a football club. I'd love to see, you'll never see it, but the breakdown of how much ticket prices actually influence club revenue, because I cannot get over the fact that, I mean, I don't think taking all those tickets down by at least 20 quid is actually going to hurt us. And I don't think that's the difference between us signing Diaby and Doku. I don't. And until I see it, I think that's one of the things I find hard to believe. But again, I do understand the fact that it's the price of success and you can charge it, so you will. It's exactly the same as the price of bottled water at an airport. Like, that's how I see it. You will buy it because you want it, and that's the only place you can get it from. So it's a kicker, but I think it has to be spoken about, and I think everyone deserves to sort of get their own views across on it. And I do just wish there was a more open way of fan consultation than what there is, because I do feel a little bit underrepresented there, but I think I might not be the only one that feels that at the moment.
It won't surprise me that, a lot of big sports have their own model, like the NFL, Game Pass, thing like that.
Yeah.
It won't surprise me if the Premier League look at doing something like that soon and, give Sky a portion of the money that comes in. But, I think NFL Game Pass, well, it's about 160 quid now, for the season, but you get to watch every game that's not on TV. So, it's not going to affect, we'll still have Sky, we'll still have all these kind of companies, but maybe that's something that more and more ticket prices go up across clubs, the more there's going to be pressure for something like that. For people to have like a armchair season ticket, I guess it would be called.
Yeah, wow. We'll cut that bit off there. It's not the nicest topic in the world, but again, we did have to chat about it. I guess the only thing I want to chat is does everyone like the new kit?
Yeah, it's okay. It's growing on me more. Like, seeing it on the players in a game, I think it always looks better than just in a photo shoot or just hanging up on a clothes rail. I think when you see it on the players, it sort of starts to grow on you more. I'm not massive on the badge in general. I don't think it's awful, but I just don't think it's as fun as it could have been and unique as it could have been. But yeah, I like the pattern on the new kit and what it stands for. I think that's a nice little story behind it. But at first I didn't think it. When people were saying it's a bit like a Burnley kit, I didn't see it. But now I keep looking, I think it does look a bit Burnley-esque.
Yeah.
It's the thing is with the kit as well. I kind of look at kits and think it depends how we do this season. If we win the Conference League this season, it's going to be classed as a classic kit.
Yeah.
It's going to be. But it's a claret and blue kit. I think a lot of people get really worked up about what a kit looks like. And it's claret and blue. All right, fair enough. It could be better. I've seen some things on Twitter which look ace, but at the end of the day, it's experts designing kits, and there's obviously a reason why they've done it. So I'm interested to see what the third kit will be, because that's always a bit wacky and a bit different. But the away kit, I think from what I've seen, is probably going to be like white and claret, just from the rumours that are popping around. But the third kit's just like the one behind you. It's that was just a phenomenal kit. That the rip off of the one you're wearing. Something just nuts like that.
Original,
I love stuff like that, and they're probably the ones that I'd go for rather than the home kit, to be honest.
Yeah, everyone loves the third kit, don't they? I think the away is why I mean, everyone's saying it. I know Project B6 keep doing their wink and saying it's because of the flag in the background. I can't buy into that. It's too many dots at the end of their sentences. I mean, no one uses ellipses that much. And and obviously I think Ty mentioned it as well, that it is white, but it's not the white that we see on the on like your dodgy websites, let's say. I think like I said, a kit's a kit. People only really care about the third kit because that's the one everyone wants to buy. And as soon as, like when we went up with, although the Loot Roper kits were very nice, and I'm not saying it's just because we went up, but because we went up with it, that's why they are regarded as why they are as well, because there's the memories that you hold with the kit. Yeah, I think I always like an away strip, and like you said, the third kit will be very interesting as well, because I mean, I think I did have it here with me, but I think the third kit, our most recent third kit, I quite liked as well. So yeah, be interesting, I think. But
yeah,
the problem is, what's even more interesting than that is what I want to hear from Symmo about, and I did actually want to get into your work with Villa and Proud as well. A slightly less smooth segue. They do get better and then worse and then better. But I do want to hear about everything you do, because I mean, I'm personally very interested. I think it'd just be great to hear everything you do, and tell us as much as you can, because it is a part of the reason why you're here, not just because you're great at talking.
Thank you. It's it's such. I'm so proud to be a part of it. Proud is obviously not the that was meant. But yeah, it's such a fascinating and rewarding group of people. We've got kind of 560 members on there, and it's so nice to hear people feeling comfortable going to Villa Park and being themselves. I always say about Villa fans, and any football fan, to be fair, we all go to Villa Park to cheer on the same thing. So why do we then turn on each other in the crowds and outside and things? And that's sort of just, I'll never get my head around that logic. I don't care what someone next to me looks like. I don't care if they're, what gender they are. It should be irrelevant. We're all there celebrating and supporting the same team. And what we do a lot of work for educational. We do a lot of events, just in spaces that people feel comfortable going to. There's a lot of anti-trans movement at the minute, which is huge, and it's making sure that, firstly, trans people are okay, and ask them, any Villa fan who's trans, any Villa fan who's bi, gay, straight, we have a lot of allies in the group if people just support the cause, and I think that's really, really important to have, and it's quite overlooked sometimes having that. But yeah, it's we just had a committee meeting yesterday about what the plans are for the next 12 months. It's our 5th birthday in November, so at the end of November we're going to have a bit of a big party. But the one good thing we've always had is Villa have always had a lot of backing with us, and it's massive to have that from Villa. It's from Tony Jarre, the end of that era, which we're trying not to talk about, but the right through to the modern era we've got now, and the Pride parades we do. We had 40, nearly 40 people sign up for Pride, and it's Villa back that, fund it, by the space of the team, and it's just a really, really a happy place, and that's the only way I can say. I never go to we've got a group chat. I never come out of that group chat feeling sad. I never come away from it, feeling, I feel inspired sometimes by some of the people we have in the group. And it's just, the kind of thing I'd always say to supporters is, just support Villa fans, just back Villa fans, no matter who they are, where they're coming from, what they choose to do, what they choose to wear. Just support each other, be a network that we should be, an inclusive network. And I appreciate you guys having me on to, give me the time to talk about it. And I could talk about it for hours and hours. It's something I'm quite passionate about, and I think anyone who knows me knows I'm quite a big advocate for it. But yeah, it's just nice. One thing we do want to push more is having allies in the community, and that's people who will just support us. You don't have to come to meetings with us. You don't have to get involved and be the waving the flag every day. You can just be there, and if you see something wrong, call it out. That's the only thing I can say about that, really.
I think it is important having these groups that make people feel welcome, because, as you say, like when I go to a game, I don't look at someone next to me as different to me, because we're all there doing the same thing. Like the amount of random people I've never met before that I've hugged and probably got love bites off after we've scored a goal. We're all there for the same thing. It's almost like you are a family. There's 43,000 people that are related for that 90 minutes, and as you said, the trans people that struggle fitting in sometimes and being respected. I don't understand it personally, how people can be so offended by it that, I don't have to understand what people are going through to respect what they want. It has no effect on me how they want to live their life. So I think everyone should be welcome, and I think these sort of groups are brilliant for making people feel like they fit in somewhere. And I think I commend you all for doing such a great job with it. So yeah, brilliant work.
Thank you. It's one thing I'd always say as well, and I try and say this to as many friends, as many people I talk to as possible. But if you're not sure what to say, because the modern day, it is very easy to be called out on something. It's probably a lot different than it was 20 years ago, when we didn't particularly care about these kind of groups, of people and things. They were seen as kind of the cast-offs of the world. And I would say to people, if you're not sure what to say on something, if you've got a question or something, just ask. I would rather someone come to me and say, I don't understand this. I don't understand why this happened. I'll happily talk you through it. I'll go for a beer with someone and talk you through it. Rather than saying something that you're not sure about. That's the whole point of groups like that. It's whether any groups, if you're not sure on what you're going to say is going to be offensive, or you're not sure about something, you got a question, just ask. We'll happily talk through people about things.
It's also great to hear as well that the club, support it as much as they do as well, because it is so easy for things like this to just sort of be left only to fans or to groups of people. I mean, I've seen it in businesses I've worked in where it's left down to the people, just the workers, or the fans like you are, just to sort of just do it themselves and build it up big enough so that it causes a problem. And that's not the aim. It's not to be an angry, vigilante, horrible group. It's supposed to be like you mentioned, a welcoming, nice group that empowers people and portrays the issues that are there. But like you said, it's just you want the inclusivity to be there, and to everyone to feel like they're enjoying it as much as the next person, as much as not only the 43,000, but the people around the ground, people that work there, the people at home, as much as they can. And I think the bit that, like I said, just cheers me up the most is the fact that the club do get involved as much as they can, or as much as they do, and back you guys up, because it like I said, it's just so easy to be fallen by the wayside with this, and to sort of be, oh well, we don't really want to be worried about this, or nope, just straight up involved in it. So it's the work you do, from everything I see from the work that Villa and Pride do, it's very well regarded as well around the Villa community. So props to you guys, man, and obviously all the power to you. That's why we wanted to get you on, because it's just great to see, and like I said, everyone's so perfectly happy, and that's all we really want, because none of this really matters with football fans. Like, why are people so angry, man? Like,
that's a whole different can of worms you're opening.
Yeah. Can we not just focus on just being angry at Leon Bailey for not cutting onto his right foot every couple of minutes,
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, there's only one last thing to do for the podcast, and I can't take credit for it. It's another idea that came straight from Symmo, which we've robbed, and I will now use for other podcasts, and I will trademark it if I have to. And that is an unpopular prediction for the season. I'm gonna go with you first, Symmo.
I forgot to write one down, so you might need to pick one of you two first. Because
well, James is worried about it, and luckily I've got one that's going to be so unpopular. I've been so happy with the way I wanted to get this in for the way the channel is growing and the way the pod's growing is I couldn't be more proud of it. And me and James put so much work into it, and seeing it go the way it's going, but at the steady pace where we're not so overwhelmed as well, is just great. So this might ruin this. But my unpopular opinion for the season is that our lowest goal scorer outside of goalkeepers and defenders for people that play over 15 games in the season is Cameron Archer. I don't believe that he'll score more than 5 goals this season.
Oh, that's it's sort of feasible at the same time, isn't it? Because he's still technically an unknown entity at the top level. But I'm going to tell you, you're wrong. He's scoring 25 this season.
I'd like to be proved wrong. I want to put that before you say it. I want to be proved wrong, but it's just I've got to have one. I've got to have one, and it can't be popular. So
I think that we may see a lot less of John McGinn come towards the end of the season. Not forced out, he's still the captain as of now, but I think it was partly protecting an asset at the same time, and he's still got a lot to offer. I'll be clear about that. I don't want him to be forced out. I don't want him to be completely removed from the squad. I just feel like how we might evolve and refresh. I think we might possibly see less of McGinn towards the end of the season when, Emery's found what he wants to do. I say that because I think he's sort of solving a puzzle at the moment with how he's bringing in players. I think he's bringing in good players and then seeing what he can do with them after. So players like profiles that we need more than anything, and then creating something afterwards. And I think maybe with some of the players that we're linked to, especially in those areas that he plays, he could struggle. But he's already proved me wrong last season, so I'd love to be proved wrong again there.
Okay,
proved us we're very wrong.
I think this is again a bit of a controversial one. I think by the end of the season, Ollie Watkins will be replacing the team. And the reason I say that is because I think Emery wants a 20-goal a season striker, and it might be something that happens next summer. I just don't think. I think Watkins will always get you between 10 and 15, and whether he puts him out in that wide right position, where we're looking for someone at the minute, and he brings in a world-class striker, but striker's your main guy. And I don't think Ollie Watkins is getting more than 15 goals in a season. I don't think he'll get. I think he'll struggle to get 10 this season, if I'm being honest, and it's a bit controversial, but yeah, it's just a gut feeling, which again I'd love to be proved wrong.
I'm a big fan of Ollie, but I think he can be quite of a streaky player at times. He did go on a good goal run, and then he went on a goal drought, and then he scored on the last day of the season. I think he can be that type of player, and I think Ings leaving was part of his rejuvenation. So if competition does come in, he might struggle again. We'll have to see. Obviously, with the whole squad having a pre-season under Emery could really benefit them all. And Emery does typically get the best out of his strikers, but it depends what he wants out of his strikers, I guess. But yeah, that'll be an interesting one to sort of keep track of that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think you two are going to be as widely detested for yours as mine is, to be honest. But I think weirdly enough, as unpopular as they are, I think maybe not. I don't think I'll ever convince James that mine's viable. But the other two, I think, are definitely ones that you could keep your eye on. I mean, at the end of the day, both players have been with us for long enough that I guess we're used to seeing the life cycle of those players sort of deteriorate as it goes on. So. Again, I wouldn't be surprised. But I think I am officially on a ban from saying anything negative about John McGinn for quite a while, because every time I do, I've just been proven wrong now. So it's clearly it's not a good look for me now. John McGinn's my master.
The one thing I will say is pre-season is going to be huge for a lot of players.
Yeah.
It's hard to judge some players sometimes, especially with a kind of Emery pre-season. And I think we're going to see some controversial things happen this season under Emery, because some people just won't cut where he needs them to be. And McGinn's potentially, we know McGinn can go hot and cold, like we said about Watkins, largely last season, the season before he was cold. It was only really the latter half of the season where he stepped up. So if he goes back to the old John McGinn, then yeah, it's, I can very much see that happening. With the Archer one as well, another one I kind of had, I can see him leaving in January if he's not playing. If he's played 4 games by January, I think he'll want to go. And he's good enough to play first team football. And I think, he could be one that isn't going to hang around if he's not going to get games.
Yeah. I
do say, though, that if he leaves, it would be a club that are in the lower to bottom half of the Premier League. Yeah. I don't think, there's a reason why he's not being touted by clubs nearer to us at the moment. But again, it doesn't discount his ability. I just think that clubs are seemingly going away from the market of signing championship scorers. I think Abraham might have spoiled the punch bowl, I guess, with that a little bit. Not that Abraham's a bad player, but obviously he didn't replicate the form, did he? So that's the only reason for my Archer thing. I just think that maybe I was going far too wide on the unpopular bit, but yeah, I just think there's a possible chance that it could go the other way and we could just be wrong and it could all go a little bit topsy-turvy. But I've been a Villa fan too long, I think.
I think Ross McCormack played too many games.
That did ruin it. I'm Russian Hepburn Murphy, players like that. It's players that I've had so much hope for. Scott Hogan, there's another one. Yeah. So yeah, it's those will be interesting. I'll be interested. I mean, by January, at least 2 of them could be right. So yeah, it'd be very interesting. And well, I mean, that about taps us out for it. And the first thing I say is, Symmo, thank you very much for coming on, my man.
Thank you for having me, mate. Anytime.
It was a lovely pod. It's actually, I think it has clocked out as our longest for a long old time as well. So that's always a good sign, because you beat Louise's time as well, which is impressive. Beautiful stuff. Well, of course, to everyone watching, make sure you do hit the like button, tap the bell, and stop giggling, James. And make sure you hit subscribe as well. Never miss another video as well. Content seems to be coming out a lot quicker than usual as well at the moment, which we're both very happy for. And again, a big thank you to everyone that is supporting at the moment, because we've had quite a few nice messages as well today, just from stuff that's going on Twitter. Nothing too important, but it's nice to see that, we're sort of building the solid foundations now, and we're both having a great time doing it. So until next time, up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Villa.